All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. I'm going to quickly go over the board norms. Board norms are to maintain our focus, communicate respectfully, be present, keep the board productive and effective, and respect the agenda. Did we have any changes to the agenda?
I would love an update on the early and aftercare discussion that we had at our last meeting.
Early and aftercare, okay. Let's call that new business section E then. Early and after. Update. Thanks, Lindsay. Anybody else? Any other additions? No? All right, seeing none. Correspondence. Didn't have a whole lot of correspondence. Public comment. So I do see in the agenda on this, but just want to kind of go over what we've been doing for the last few meetings, which is we section off a particular time for discussion from the public. So as you'll see in here, we have 30 minutes for the first item, and we'll likely do 30 minutes for the second one, depending on how many people want to discuss. And based on that, Mike here will be timing it. Folks will have, depending on how, well, we have quite a few folks, so we'll call it a minute per person. And he'll just, if we get everybody could respect that and speak for a minute, and then we can move on to the next person, and he'll keep track of who has spoken. So everybody will hopefully get a chance to speak. If we exhaust everybody who wants to speak, then we could go into a round of second opportunities for folks to speak. But
Introduce themselves too.
yes, and please introduce yourselves and what town you're from when you do speak.
I don't know if everyone can hear well.
That's probably good. We did that last time, right? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right.
Trying to back up in a minute.
I'll speak up a little bit. All right. So first order of new business is approve the minutes of August 1st. I'll entertain a motion on that.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. How many folks do we have out there? Bob, who do we have out there?
Who do we have out there?
Or board member, sorry.
Scroll down. That's it. It's the bottom. I don't think that's the bottom right there. I don't think we have any.
Okay. Well, I guess we're in-house on this one.
Crystal's there. Is that?
Oh,
Is that-
Crystal.
Is that?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Crystal's that the right crystal? I don't know how many crystals we got.
All right, Crystal, how do you vote on that?
Yes.
Thank you, Ken.
James.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to elementary consolidation from 3 schools to 2 schools. Shall the West River Education District consider interim consolidation for elementary school operations in FY24 to better serve its resident students? So we're going to start this off with a task force recap for about 15 minutes. Then we'll get into public comment, and then based on public comment, the board will discuss after we've heard everything from you folks and take some possible action. So, Les, do you want to kick that off?
Sure. And Bob, if we could pull up those slides, appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Les Edmondson. I've been working as a consultant to the board during this phase of long-term planning work. I'm a former teacher, principal, and consultant with the Massachusetts Department of Education. It's been a pleasure to be working with the board and the community as you wrestle with these really challenging questions. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of the path that the board took to get to tonight and the question that Al posed about consolidation. Before we jump into the details, Bob, if you just move to the next slide there, I'd like to suggest two additional norms for tonight. We followed these norms at our last meeting and found they were very helpful. The first, balance advocacy and inquiry, essentially means speak up, state your opinions, let us hear what's on your mind, but keep an open mind. And let's seek to both be understood and to understand. And the second one, presume positive intentions, is speaks to the fact that others may not see things in just the same way that we do. And let's not question anyone's motives. Let's assume that everybody is speaking in good faith with deeply held beliefs, and let's respect one another's thoughts and opinions. Move on next, please. So when the board voted this past December to take on this work as a whole board, one of the first things they did was to develop a mission statement for the work. And the mission statement essentially focuses on the three bullets that you see there on the screen. The board is looking to design a sustainable structure that provides students with an equitable, high-quality educational experience, is fiscally responsible, and preserves core values. And the board committed themselves to engaging community stakeholders in this process and building toward consensus. Now, consensus doesn't mean that everybody sees things in exactly the same way, but we want to try to get to a place where everybody understands the decisions and the choices that have been made and can support them and give them the benefit of the doubt. So the board has tried to engage the community in a number of ways. And quite a few of the board meetings have been conducted with a great deal of community input and participation. The website for the district has been redesigned to pull together all the information that's been gathered over the past number of years into a central place, make it easily accessible to everyone. There's a monthly newsletter that is distributed through the schools and at various locations in the community. There have been community meetings. There was an engagement of the whole community in the visioning process at the outset of the work in March, and an online platform, a Padlet, has been set up to solicit additional ideas, opinions, questions from the community. So that brings us to three questions that need to be considered tonight. The first, as Al stated, is should the district consider interim consolidation for elementary school operations in fiscal 24 to better serve resident students? The second, which will also be discussed later this evening, is should the district explore the feasibility of a one-campus model to serve its resident students or other models that may work? And that exploration would involve a study that we would solicit to provide that information to you. And the third, should the district explore a third party school quality review? And this came up very much in relation to the discussions around whether the district is going to maintain a K-12 organization, which it unanimously voted to do at the last meeting in August. However, there were a number of concerns raised about the quality of the student experience in the secondary schools and also in the elementary schools. And so the question is whether to bring in an independent group to do an audit of the schools and provide a report to you that would help to guide future planning. So here we are tonight, and to consider this first question about interim consolidation for elementary schools. Now, a little clarification about what's meant here by interim consolidation. The work of the previous long-term planning committee, echoed by the work of the elementary school task force that prepared a report to this board earlier in June, both pointed to the fact that the most sustainable and in many ways the most efficient and effective organization would be to bring all the kids in the district together in what you probably know of as the one campus model or some consolidated model. And that may be the path eventually that you'll take. But doing that is a large undertaking and will take significantly more information and study than you've been able to conduct so far. So what to do now? What to do in the interim? Are there choices that could be made that could bring some improvements, some efficiencies, some greater equity to the student experience across the district, and that could, if the decision were later made, feed into a consolidated campus model? So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. If we can move to the next slide. So in April, an elementary task force was formed, and they were formed to consider a number of issues that you've been talking about for years. There is an inequity in the current configuration of schools and how education is delivered. Different models in different schools with different experiences for different students. There is an inequity in the kind of social and emotional supports and opportunities that are available to all students in all schools. Enrollment is declining within the district and is projected to continue a decline over the next 7 or 8 years. And there's a shift in the demographics within the district. There are some inefficiencies in the way district resources are being used. And the current perception of district schools really varies to new residents. And I think everybody would like to see the schools have a strong reputation, have a great deal of support, and be a draw for folks to move into the communities. So the task force examined all the work that's been done previously by the long-term planning committee, went through all the archives and information that have been gathered. There are building reports, the financial reports, the educational program reports, and came up with a set of recommendations for some ways to address this problem. So there are 3 options on the table for interim changes. One is to maintain the status quo, 3 K-5 schools in each existing location. A second option would be to consolidate to 2 K-5 schools, and the locations of those to be determined. But 2 schools serving the 4 towns within the district. And then the third being a 2-school model that is often referred to as a banded model, where there's 1 school for students in grades K through 2, 1 school for students in grades 3 through 5. Those are in 2 separate locations. And again, the long term is to explore the consolidated campus, whether that's practical, whether it's affordable, whether it offers enough advantage to offset some of the disruption to the current organization that everybody is accustomed to. And for that, we're looking to some additional information and some of the studies that we'll talk about a little bit later. So what I have tried to do here is to develop a table that summarizes some of the information that's been gathered and discussed. And I want to make it clear that this table is my doing. So if you don't like it, point right over here. It's an effort to just get the discussion going. There are some interpretation and judgments involved here, and I'll explain some of the things behind that. And others may see this differently. So we would encourage you to contribute your thoughts and reactions as we go. This is drawn from the elementary task force report, and I would certainly invite members of the task force who may be here to add in anything they feel is relevant. And it's also draws from the community forums, from the Padlet, from the questions that were raised, the comments in response to the elementary task force report, and questions for the board that have been raised by the community. So let me walk through this and sort of explain my thinking a bit. And I have this on a chart over here as well, if that's easier for some folks to read. So for grade configuration, the 2 school models are identified as having a strength in grade configuration. Why is it? It's because that means in 2 K through 5s, 1 class.
I think so.
For the K2 and 3-5, you could have 2 classrooms for every grade level. You would have larger peer groups for students. You would have more access to more staff in general. And teachers would be able to work in more flexible ways within structures like that. The status quo, the current 3K5 model, is identified as a moderate challenge. And that's primarily because of the differential experience that exists for students at Jamaica right now with small enrollment and 2 multi-graded classrooms that span 3 grades. But I would say about that while I represented that as a moderate challenge, having that kind of multi-graded classroom organization is also highly desirable in some settings. Montessori schools, for instance, are organized in that way and have built a program and a curriculum around that broader age range and the older kids helping younger kids and so on. So it is a challenge, but it is not an insurmountable challenge. For educational opportunities, again, the 2 school models were identified as having strengths. And in this case, it's because of additional opportunities for student support services, for consistent curriculum, for flexibility in student groupings, how curriculum might be delivered, and the opportunities for additional services before and after school services that would be more easily provided in those settings. The challenge, again, exists for the more limited opportunities available to students in Jamaica. But note too that there's an opportunity for increased personalization, individualization of learning in that kind of a setting as well. And that is very appealing to some families and teachers and may in fact work more effectively in practice than it would seem to in theory. Teacher collaboration was identified as a priority during the visioning process. And both of the two school models present some advantages there as well. And I've identified that as a moderate strength because there's an opportunity for teachers to plan together, to teach together in a variety of ways. You could have a collaborative co-teaching with regular and special educators. You can have some differentiation and sort of semi-departmentalized teaching for teachers so that if you had 2 fifth grades, you could have one teacher who teaches math while the other teaches language arts. Or if you have a 4th and a 5th grade, you could even loop and teach the same subject to 2 grade levels. There are different opportunities that present themselves with a model, either of those models. The moderate challenge in the 3-school model really stems from the fact that you're spreading a lot of support staff and specialist staff across 3 schools rather than 2. So you're losing some efficiency and some time with that. And with that, you're also losing some opportunities for organizing the school in ways that promote deeper and more effective teacher collaboration. Bus routes, probably somewhat a little more self-explanatory. In 3 K-5s, the bus routes will be shorter. With the 2 K-5s, there be a little additional time because you're taking now an additional town and having those students go into perhaps 2 different places. For K2 and 3-5, that represents a significant challenge because a family with children of different ages, let's say a 1st and a 4th grader, going to 2 different schools in 2 different towns. Somebody's going to have a longer bus ride. You're going to probably have to stagger the arrival and departure times a little bit more. But the busing is a little bit more complicated there too. So another way of thinking of that is probably longer and shorter bus times, time on bus. And then finally, community support. And for the two models that are listed as moderate strengths, there was more support voiced in the community forum for those models. The clear preference for those who made a choice in the Padlet was for 2 K-5 schools. And then maintaining 3 K-5 schools was the second choice. And the K2-3-5 model, although it has a lot of educational advantages, and school administrators have identified this as the one that probably offers the greatest educational opportunities to most students, had the least support within the community because of the complexities that presents for families and family life and having your children dispersed across different communities. So those were some of the key things that went into my thinking as I put those ratings up on the board. And I don't know if any members of the task force would like to add to that at all.
No, I think you did a great job summarizing things, and I would just say that where the three models that are compared, those models came from lots of discussions with administrators, both from the previous long-term planning and a new, and those were sort of three models that we, as a full committee with community members, et cetera, sort of all agreed that was the best range. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I think with that as the backdrop, time to open the floor a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless anybody else from the task force? No. Anybody out there? All right. So yes, as discussed, we will have public comment for 30 minutes. A lot of folks here. We'll try to do our best to bounce it back and forth between Zoom. Bob, would it be easier if we just had like a full screen of, yeah, sorry. Yeah. There we go. I will just want to make sure we see all hands. All right. Mike is ready. He's got his timer. So I'll entertain whoever the first person is who wants to raise their hand to make a comment for 1 minute. We can come back to you if you want to throw. All right. Paul is up.
I'm Paul Jers from Townsend, and many of you probably know me, but for those who don't, I've had the luxury of substituting for every grade over in Townsend. I've also performed as a program leader, some wonderful kids, bike ride, and all kinds of things after school. And, I'm really passionate about what we were able to accomplish. And I saw the kids go from third grade over to the middle school. And this is a tough decision. And I want it to be the right. Speak up. Yeah, so I just want it to be the right thing. So I only get a minute. I probably already used half of it. I watched the last 3 board meetings this morning, and I watched the last 3 long-term planning, the videos. And I just captured things. So this kind of deals with both topics. The only thing I'd say right up the front that I couldn't ask a question about is we're talking about, should we go to 2 schools? And I agree, I think we should. This is me thinking, and I think we definitely should. But the bigger question becomes, and that's the detail that we have to talk about, is where the schools would be and how that would work. And we got to realize because of the state legislature and rules, there's differences on what we can do. And that's a fact. And we have to be transparent about it and face that, because that's a big difference. So here's what Paul Jers knows. Townsend has operated as a school servicing pre-K grade 5 successfully for many years, and during COVID, especially dealing with all that thing. We had survey results that told us that 64% of people want to go to 2 schools. I'm one of those guys. When I took the survey, I never assumed we would close Townsend School. Never in a million years. It didn't even cross my mind, but I agreed that the writing was on the wall. I was a board member before. We're not going to need 3 schools. Some people who might have had the same discussion. Survey results told us that a central pre-K was not desired. That was the highest thing I saw in the survey. We didn't talk about that yet. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing with pre-K is it's not required by the state. Grade 6 is started for that. It's not required. We talked about costs, closing 1 school, $225,000, but we didn't break it out on which school it would be.
Yeah.
We've never forced any student to go to a school that they didn't want to go. If we close Townsend, we're going to force Townsend kids to go to another school, which we've never done before. And it wouldn't be equitable to make the Townsend kids have to go to school they didn't want to go if we didn't treat Newbrook the same way.
All right.
Is that it?
Yeah, a little bit more. Well, I'm sure we'll be able to come back to you.
So,
But
I mean,
yeah.
this is important. And,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. these are all good facts, and I think this is a big decision. So if I get another opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't have to introduce myself.
No, you don't. You can run right into it.
Do you want to bump it to 2 minutes?
Yeah,
We're gonna
yeah. We'll go to 2 minutes.
Did he get his full 2 minutes?
You got his full,
He got three.
okay, a little bit more, yeah. So to be fair, yes, 2 minutes.
Is there anybody?
Oh, I'm sorry, good point.
No hands are up.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm gonna ask my Townsend community to stand with me. I get very nervous. So. My name's Chris Jers. I am a member of the Townsend school community, but more importantly, I'm a member of the Townsend community in and of itself. Not only as a teacher, but as a past parent, as a townsperson that has really developed and worked with the town itself to bring community to the school. When I heard Ken suggest that we move all of Townsend students to Jamaica, I was appalled. When you, as a town board, you did 70, you're asking 70 students to leave their home, or students that have requested to come to Townsend. I'm sorry, I don't remember this person's name over here, but you said that we want families to have, we want the schools to have a strong reputation that has drawn families from all over, and that's what Townsend has. And now you're asking that to go away. Over our district, we have we've had students come from Newfane. We've had students come from Jamaica. We've had one student choose to go somewhere else. That should speak the loudest of all. That Townsend has that reputation. Townsend has that draw. And by choosing to close Townsend, and that's essentially what you're doing, because pre-K is not required by the state. So there's no reason it's not required. So keeping pre-K there doesn't do anything. I agree, maybe we have to go to 2 schools, but I hope you make the right choice. Or, as you talked about, I think Ken said last time, we could move central office to Townsend. If that's your goal, to save that money from there, leave all the students where they are and put central office. They can still fit at Jamaica, and some of them can fit at Leland and Gray, and you can still save that money. Thank you. And Townsend is really a wonderful school. So
Thanks, Chris.
No hands.
Still no. Anybody else out here? I think you represented everybody in Townsend, Chris. Didn't you? Nobody else?
I guess I'll say one thing. I'm Alenka. I went to Townsend Elementary School. I have kids there, but I want to kind of reiterate what Chris said, is that when school choice became available, I think the amount of Jamaica students that joined Townsend kind of speaks volumes. And I understand it's a hard decision all across the board, but I think those are things that really should be kept in mind.
That it? Not even close to 2 minutes. No. Oh, he's got, yeah. Paul, at this rate, you're gonna have about 20 minutes. Yeah, seriously. So nobody else? Oh, there. Can you announce yourself?
My name is Renee Derlew. I am a newer community member to Townsend. My family and I moved from Florida to be part of this community. My daughter is 4 years old. She has Down syndrome and a heart defect, and the community that we have felt from Townsend Elementary, from all of the staff, has been amazing. So I really, really hope for that community sense for every child that Townsend stays open.
Still seeing them up there. All right, Paul, you're down to 15 minutes and 45 seconds.
Thank you very much. All right, so I looked at the costs that you guys put out, and this is my interpretation. So the cost for making changes required for Jamaica were pretty high. And honestly, I just did a refurb on my house, upstairs, and they're never what you think they're going to be anyways. So we don't really know what they're going to be. I drove down there the other day, and the road in the winter kind of questions me a little bit for driving. We haven't had 90 kids, I don't think, in that Jamaica school a long time. We've never had 90 kids during COVID. So you can guess at how that's going to work, but until you run the school, you don't really know the effects on that. And COVID is a reality that we could all face. When meetings are held to discuss the plans, we held meetings at Newfane and Jamaica. We didn't have them at Townsend. I don't know why that happened. That seemed kind of weird. Survey results did not take into account that Townsend voters were happy with the current situation. They didn't think anything was going to happen. They weren't advocating to change anything. It was going to close Townsend school. One campus. This is really interesting. Drew, who's not here, was very adamant about the one campus, long-term planning, and I agree. You got to think that. Right now, we got some smaller fish to fry first. However, we already got one campus. It's right there. You know how many high school kids came over and worked? Your son worked after school with me with those kids, came over to visit the teachers they had, came over to read books to the kids in the school. We have one campus. Collaboration, you got the teachers. I looked at the numbers for, I love Leland and Gray. We should keep this high school. I looked at the numbers though. Leland and Gray, it's not great with the numbers, the teachers we have and all that. We got to do better. We got opportunity for collaboration with this one campus we have, with teachers, with kids. We got things in this community in Townsend, like the hospital and that allows a lot of things to be done. CCV, I'm taking classes right now. I'd love to tutor kids that are doing that in school. That would be great after school type thing. That's our collaboration. We shouldn't give that up. The other costs, let me see what else I got. Feedback from the affected, Townsend will be greatly affected. Families that have made decisions to live in Townsend. I know I'm not against anybody in Jamaica. I got great friends in Jamaica. I work part-time in Jamaica. That's not the issue. The issue is families chose to live in Townsend too. They bought houses, they made decisions. If you try to change this into just the pre-K, we lost our school. And you're gonna have the same, you're just creating another, you're just moving the issue. Talked about a rec center. There was some discussion about a rec center. It seems like we're trying to come up with something for the Jamaica building. Honestly, we talked about an immersion center. Now we're talking about making it the school. It's like, why is that so important? They talked about a rec center in one of the things. That could be a great rec center for its location. So bottom line, we are at a point now we need to take advantage of things that are working. We know Townsend works. We know we have collaboration. We had it after school. And why we lost that? It's another issue for a different day. It should come back. That was a big thing for both schools. But we know that works. It gives us an opportunity at one campus. It gives us an opportunity of collaboration. So now is not the time to step into the unknown. Try to rebuild a school that hasn't been in operation, guessing at how much it's going to cost, ripping families apart in towns and making them go to different places. I just don't see how that could be a logical choice at all. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah. All right, there is still more time for public comment. Has that brought anybody to think that they wanted to? Oh, we do have a couple. Sorry, ladies first. Thank you. Can you state your name? Thank you.
I'm Robin Patnode. First, I'm a parent. Second, I am the administrative assistant at Townsend. I deal with the logistics of busing every day of my life, where kids are going. My question for the board, when we go to a two-school model, how are you going to divide those kids? Will Townsend just have to be split 50-50? Will we all choose to go to Newbrook? As a Townsend person who's closer to Newbrook, that's where I would prefer. To be equitable to all students in our district, that would make a lottery for all students. You can't say, well, you live here, so you're gonna have to go to Jamaica or you're gonna have to go to Newbrook. To be fair is to be fair to all, right? That's our goal, is to give all students a fair and equitable education, right? So how are we gonna do that with these kids? Yes, there's 18 at Jamaica, but that is their school. That is where they wanna be. My daughter wants to be at Townsend. Other families wanna be at Newbrook. So how, if we choose to go to from 3 to 2, how are we gonna be able to tell what kid, sorry, you're out. You don't get that choice now. That's something you all need to think about. Eventually, one of these schools will probably peter out and it will become nothing anymore and move on to the next thing. But until then, whether it be the 18 kids at Jamaica, there are still 18 faces who are gonna have to say goodbye to their school. Or in my school, there's gonna be 74 who will have to say goodbye to their school. Or I don't know the numbers at Newbrook, but if they were the ones who had to close their doors, all of those children would say goodbye to their school. So just something to keep in mind. Who's gonna be the one to say to their children, sorry, this isn't your school anymore? How are we gonna divide that up and how are we going to make it fair for all children? So just something to think about.
Thank you, Robin. You were first.
Yeah, I'm John Evans from Townsend, and been here for a while. I'm kind of curious what's brought this all on. Why is this being discussed?
Well, John, this is public comment time. We can definitely get into that within our board discussion, but we've been working on this for years.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can get into that with our discussion.
We're gonna get into what?
We'll get into that with our discussion. We'll have our board discussion after public comment. This is a public comment time.
I don't like what I'm hearing here, okay? I'll make myself clear.
Okay, thanks, John. Oh, what? We do have a hand up? Terry, go ahead.
Horrible internet. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a Townsend resident, a Townsend elementary school parent. I also work at the high school, and we definitely do a lot of collaboration during the school day between Leland and Gray students and Townsend Elementary. And just now, starting today, soccer has moved to Newbrook. And I've had soccer students who typically after school could go over when soccer was in Townsend, be able to help out and still get back to their own practice on time. But now that it's at Newbrook, they don't have that ability. So this is sort of a real-time demonstration about how moving things outside of the sphere of Townsend is already impacting the collaboration between Leland and Gray students and Townsend Elementary. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Terry. Go ahead.
I'm Joyce Van Dalen. And I would just like to build on, I can't remember your name, but the administrator at Townsend, about building community. I'm starting my 51st year of teaching this year. I've taught 40 some years in London Central. Community is so key. I've taught 22 years in Brookline, and I've been at Newbrook since 97. And building community and making sure that each school feels like a community. I'm really, really concerned, especially about what you said about trying to figure out where children are going to go. And that really concerns me.
Thank you. All right. Yep. Yes, go ahead.
Deidre Beatty, and I am from Townsend, and I currently work in Townsend. I have worked in Jamaica Elementary School also. I guess my comment is, one, that it really saddens me to even think, and maybe a lot of people don't know this, but Townsend Elementary School is the longest running schoolhouse in the state of Vermont. The thought of closing that is heartbreaking, to take that history away. Second, I just can't even imagine, after working at both, how anybody thinks we're going to fit all of Townsend Elementary School into Jamaica. Our classrooms, the amount of classrooms we have, but besides that, we have a full-time nurse. Jamaica does not have a nurse's office, bathroom, shower, which Townsend does. We have a full-time counselor. We have 2. 1.5, however. She plays several roles. But anyways, we have 2 that share a office. Our speech, our SEL share an office. We have 2 ASTs who have 2 offices. We have upstairs our special educator who has an office. I think I counted earlier, other than administrative, 6 different offices that Jamaica does not have offices. Where are these people going to work? We have, where I work, our step room. Jamaica does not have space for a social emotional behavioral room. I just am really shocked because would it be great to have Jamaica's playground in Townsend? Absolutely. That's our only downfall, is our place, outdoor space. So yeah, I can't even imagine how we're thinking about putting all of Townsend to Jamaica and to Newfane, which is already fairly full. And where all that staff would go.
Thank you, Jude. Tony. Please go ahead.
Yes. So, as most of the Townsend staff knows, my daughter, Jillian, and our son, Hunter, we all live in Newfane. I'm a long-term resident of Newfane and graduated well before the whole library was done up and everything. And my daughter is wheelchair bound. There's plenty of staff in that room right now that knows my daughter very, very, very well. Probably the pride of that school. And if we were to ever try to close down that school, it would be heart-wrenching to both of our children. They are fantastic in that school. I would absolutely discourage any and everything that would partake in closing Townsend. Those kids have done phenomenal in that school, and I would never ever want to go try to trek either our kids up to JBS or down to Newbrook, because chances are they would be separated if we went to that 2-school model. It would be absolutely devastating in our gas bill. And we just cannot simply close that hub of this elementary school.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. All right, we are approaching 30 minutes. Does anybody else want to finish it off? No? All right. Seeing none, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Very passionate and very understandable. So we will now move to board discussion and possible action. Anybody on the board want to kick it off?
Sure, I'll kick
Ken.
it off.
All right, Ken. You have 2 minutes.
Just,
No, just kidding.
hey, you ready? Get the timer ready. Okay, first off, the reason this whole discussion happened was because most of you people out here voted to consolidate the schools for Act 46. And that's why we're here now. Otherwise, this discussion would never be happening. I never said move everybody to Jamaica. That was never said. I did say that they would have to be split up if it were going to happen. But if you all remember a few years back when we're having a discussion about Jamaica having 30 students, and I brought up the fact that when Brookline only had 30 students, the discussion between the two boards came together. And then the two towns were involved, and that's how that happened, how Newbrook happened. And somebody took that as you want to close Jamaica school. And there was a big uprising because NAMBY, not in my backyard. And this is what I'm seeing right now. Not that I don't, hey, if this was, they were saying Newbrook was the one in the middle, you know, the building that was in the middle, that it would make sense, that it would logistically make sense to do it, that Newbrook would close. You wouldn't be here. All the people from Newbrook would be sitting here saying the same thing of what's so great about their school, what's so great about their community. I get it. I understand. But the reality of it is we're here now. We have a committee that wants to consolidate schools and eventually go to a one campus district, which personally I think would be vital using just the buildings that we have, because you don't know what's going to happen in 3 months or 3 years, that we could have an influx of 30% more students and not have the room for them. Because it is possible. So, you know, that's all I have to say on that subject.
That
For
was-
now.
That was 2 minutes exactly. Good job, Ken. Well done. All right, anybody else? Anybody else out there? Do we still have Emily out there and Joe?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Emily. Did you want to, now that I put you on the spot, did you want to
I'm here too.
comment?
I'll let Joe go first. He's here.
Oh, okay.
I'm at something of a disadvantage coming to the meeting late. It seemed like all the public comment was, don't close Townsend. Did we propose that I'm unaware of?
We did not.
Okay. I mean,
Meetings on June 6th. Yeah. I think it was August 6th, is that what it was? It was brought up at the meeting. It was suggested.
okay.
So-
Yeah,
so
I'm
it
just
was-
like,
it was put out.
So nothing has changed drastically tonight from where we were. And you know, going through this, I mean, we've looked at this and we've looked at a number of different models and we've made a bunch of sort of progress. And I think it's pretty fair to say at this point that we've looked at about every option there is. And none of them are amazing. None of them are clear, you know, front runner, got to do this kind of thing. And, you know, what we've started to realize is that, you know, rather than let this decision be made by the board and well, I mean, it'll be made by the board, but we maybe need some more outside help here. We talked about at the last meeting, do we need to do a feasibility study for how this is going to work? And, rather than and there was an item agenda, I think it was last month, talking about a feasibility study of a one campus model. And I think we need to even back away from that and talk about, get an outside person who is not emotionally involved and to come in and help us analyze what makes sense for our students. It doesn't serve them well to continue to fight over what's the best solution. So I think that's kind of where what this is showing me is that we need some outside help.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, thanks. So I'm going to take a step back from those details sort of and say, I want to express my concerns about the place we're in today and the fallout of that has been, evident as we've been having meeting after meeting after meeting, the fallout from COVID and the shifts that have been happening in public education. Ken just brought up Act 46, which was actually a really long time ago, but clearly isn't still in the mind of some of us. And I am concerned about making sure that we are not destabilizing our system even more by making some decisions that may be interim. So I say that because I believe that even if we went to one of these models that we're talking about, we're still going to study based on some of the data that we're looking at. And so I feel pretty concerned that it's important to support our students and our staff and our communities by trying to stabilize our system, trying to get our feet underneath us in this challenging time that we are coming out of, and not add in an extra change right now that may lead to another change not too far down the road. So, and I'm just giving you my perspective. That may not be other people's views of this, but from everything I've been hearing and listening to, it sounds like any of these models probably are not going to be what the long-term model is. So I would just caution us to make sure that we're supporting our students and our staff right now, trying to make sure that they have what they need to provide a high quality education system for our kids right now, and then take a look at the same time, while we're stabilizing, take a look at what is the best long-term model for us. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Emily. Lindsay.
So I just want to say thank you to so many people for showing up. It means a lot to us. I know it's not just me. And I really appreciate the passion that you all have. I have heard a lot of comments about, well, yeah, a lot of us think that 2 schools is the right choice, but just not this one. And I want to make sure that as a board, we start by trying not to be emotionally invested in different buildings, because all of the kids are who we're here for. And I'm personally not here for any building. I just want all of the kids in the entire district to have the very best that we can do for them. That being said, I heard a lot of really reasonable comments about collaboration happening between Leland and Gray and Townsend. And I also heard, some conversation about asking 70 kids to change versus asking 20 whatever kids to change. And I feel that. I just want to make sure that we are all really aware that it isn't where your kids are being, our kids, my kids are in this district too. It is not where our kids are being educated that matters the most, but who is with them, who is in their class, who are their teachers, who is interacting with them, how are they interacting with them? Because we have some amazing staff, and everybody that's so in love with all of the things that are happening at Townsend, it is those things are happening because of the people that are there and how they are doing things. So I just think that all of those things can happen in a different place. I don't know at this point whether we should have them happen in a different place, but I know that emotionally it's hard to feel like, you know, this is our place, right? This is our community, but really our community is the people that are in it, and how we support each other and how we stand up for each other and what we do for each other. And those things don't have to, those things don't have to change, or they can change for the better because of that. So I don't have an answer at this point, but I really appreciate everyone's comments.
Excellent. I'm going to start, and I'm going to attempt to answer Mr. Evans' question that he asked. The reason why we're here is declining enrollment is really the main driving factor of why we have to have these sorts of meetings. Because we have less kids, it makes our cost per pupil go up, and that has become an issue in recent years. That said, I think I even said this in the last LTP meeting, whatever we do has to be thoroughly vetted, thoroughly planned out. And we've done a lot of great work, but I don't think we're there yet. And I know we have budget season starting pretty much now. So I'm concerned that whatever we do is going to be, hey, we've done a lot of great work, but now we're just going to jam something through. And I don't think that would be the right way to go. I'm not saying that the board wants to jam anything through, but I think that we just need to be really cautious. You know, we have a great community. We have great schools, great teachers working in those schools. And I want to be cautious and methodical in our approach on this. That's it. Thanks, Mike. Dana.
I come from Jamaica. You all know that. I can tell you the 18 kids that go there want to go there. They don't want to go anywhere else. The reason the others left, they had their own reasons. It wasn't on the quality of education being dispensed there. That's what people are assuming. It was the fact that they had older kids here, made sense. Other reasons too. There's about half of the kids in Jamaica that don't go in our district. They want to go somewhere else. At this time, I believe in the one campus model. I believe in the 2-grade banding. I think it will do wonders for our kids, but I believe our district's not ready for it. We haven't, like Mike said, gone through all of it. I am pushing for the feasibility study of the one campus model to see what will work for us. It really sucks not having a school nurse on site, but there's other things. Music's bouncing around, art bounces around. It'd be great to have it on one campus. The grade banding, I mean, if we were going to do the 2-school model, I'd push for the K through 2, 3 through 5, because that's what's best for the kids. But the bus routes and the family crisis, nobody wants it. But that's what would be really best for the kids, for their education. But the busing and the family life of, you know, some of us be bouncing all over the place. It would be chaotic. So we're not. So I think I'm going to make a motion that we push this out for another 2 years. I do believe the way the enrollment is in Jamaica, eventually it'll dwindle down. Pre-K kids aren't going back to Jamaica. In time, in 2 years, probably 3 at the most, we won't have enough school population to make sense to have that school open. And what we do with the building. Jamaica residents are very adamant about keeping their school. About as adamant as Townsend. And about as adamant as Newfane. Brookline, I'm sorry. But
Brookline does have a school now. Come on.
yes, they do.
It's
Yes,
New
they do.
Brunswick. Yes.
I'm making the motion that we extend this out to at least 2 years. Unless
Would you like
something
to make-
changes.
Would you like to make the motion to continue with 3 schools, status quo as is?
As is. I'll make the motion to keep it status quo as is.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Chair? All right, any discussion from the motion maker? Like makers?
People don't mind paying a little more in taxes. Keep 3 schools. To make everybody happy. That's it. That was my last spiel.
Anybody else?
Sarah, do you have anything?
Yes, sir.
I don't have anything to add to what I've even said. I think the important comments have been made. I agree with the general consensus of the board.
I just want to thank everybody for a very, very thoughtful discussion. Folks out in the public, the board for listening, and for us to coming to what I feel is a reasonable decision. We haven't made it there yet, but it's on the table to do that. And I'll just echo some of what others have said. Emily talked about stability. Completely agree. We have been over the last couple of years through it. All of us. I think everybody needs a sense of stability, and that's what this would provide. Community. Everybody talked about community. Yes, we need strong sense of community, and everybody needs to feel supported. And I hope everybody out of this does feel supported. So, again, really appreciate everybody. Heartfelt discussion. And unless there's any other discussion, we will take it to a vote.
I would
Go ahead, Lindsay.
love to add one thing.
Please.
I guess I would like to sort of reiterate what Dana said in that I also believe that the best thing academically for our children is a one campus model. I do think that if we agree and vote tonight to leave the status quo as is, that I think that actually should increase our sense of urgency as to where we are and what is happening, because yet again, it feels like kicking the can. And we have done this for years and years and years, and we actually have to do something here. We cannot go through an entire process where we hire a facilitator and then we do months and months and months worth of community feedback on top of a 9-month long committee and then say, just kidding, we're going to do nothing now, because that can't be the thing. So I'm not opposed to keeping what we have right now, because I think that one campus is the best solution. And I think that changing for the sake of change isn't necessarily going to help anybody. I also think that it is doing a disservice to the town of Jamaica and to the students of Jamaica to say, well, if we just let it go, they'll kill themselves. That's kind of terrible. We either are here to support them in all things and help build that school to something wonderful, or say, as a district, we have to make some hard choices and let's do a thing. So I may be able to get on board with the motion in I hate every bit of this kind of way, because we cannot kick this can. And it means that we have to keep this process going through budget season, the entire thing. We need an answer. So I'm terrified to say yes to this because I'm afraid that it will be like, okay, we're done now. And that's like the most terrifying thing to me ever. So
Can you come up with a better one?
that's
Let me
where I'm
see-
at.
Let's see if I can quell your fears on that. So status quo, maybe not the best of terms. True. Status quo only in that we are going to be keeping the 3 schools until we are able to move to a one campus model or something else that works. Yes, there should be an incredible sense of urgency. Time is ticking, always. But I think we need that stability. We need to have a feasibility study. We need to have a school quality review, all things that will help us guide us as we move towards that much larger thing, instead of having an intermediate thing, as you said, for change's sake, which, that's why disrupt if we can actually, at the end of the day, in whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 years from now, have something that everybody wants and work towards that. There we go. I was going to say, you're the last one who hasn't spoken. Come on.
I've been quiet because, quite frankly, I don't like any of these solutions. None of that are for the short term. 2, you're disrupting some kids for what I'm not perceiving as enough gain. That doesn't make sense. We know what the status quo is. That's not working. K through 2 and 3 through 5 has some strong academic reasons and probably even social reasons for why that would work. But logistically, with our geography, it's a nightmare. So as long as we continue exploring to improve, I would agree with this.
That makes everybody.
I got my hand up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Emily. Thank you.
So sorry. I just have a hard time keeping my mouth shut, I guess. So this sort of follows what Lizzie was saying and Leanne was saying, and you, Al. My comments were only to keep us stable until we can come to another solution. I do not think we need to take a pause on anything. I think we need to walk forward immediately from this meeting on, whatever the outcome is. And because we do have challenges that we know we need to address. I want to just express again that first of all, what we're talking about here and what I was trying to express about wanting to not disrupt things any more than they've been disrupted over the last 3 years, and the challenges that we've been facing in our district are not just us. This is true across the board everywhere, and I want to acknowledge that. And I also know that it's challenging to work in an education system right now. So those are some of the things that are driving my comments. I wanted to take us back to the motion, and the motion was slightly different than the comments leading up to the motion. So the motion I support, which was to, Danny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was simply to keep the status quo while we move forward. But the comments were for 2 years. And that wasn't part of the motion. So I want to be pretty clear. I don't want to put a longer limit on it. I want us to start working on this immediately. And we may be able to come to some solution much quicker than 2 years. And it may take longer than 2 years, but I don't think it makes sense for us to have a time frame in this motion today. We may want to have a time frame once we get the framework of a feasibility study in front of us. But at this point in time, I support the motion, and somebody can read it back in the way that I just described it without a time frame on it. Does that make sense?
It does, Emily. Yeah, I agree. No,
Well, I did, no.
talked about it, but then
Talked about it.
Yeah.
But you
The
didn't
only
put it in
reason,
the motion.
the only reason I was putting like 2 years is to put a deadline so it doesn't get kicked down the
Got it.
road. But I can amend my motion.
No, your motion was fine. I didn't want to, if I can just finish, I wasn't trying to express, I agree with you. What I'm trying to say is I want to do this as soon as possible for all the reasons that everybody has expressed. That's all, but I don't think we can put a frame on how long we should be status quo.
Thanks, Emily, which I don't think we did in the motion. I know we didn't.
No.
Yeah.
It was just a
You talked
add-on
about it
idea,
then.
but
yeah.
Great,
Okay.
thanks.
Thanks, Emily. All right, anybody else before we go to a vote? We've already had public comment, but I will allow this one. Go ahead.
Thank you. Clarification, is this, this consolidation is mandatory handed down from the state? Or do I not understand?
Is the consolidation that we were discussing mandatory?
Mandatory that something that these schools get consolidated, these elementary schools?
No, absolutely, it's not mandatory, but taxes will just continue to rise. And yeah, so that's what we were trying to curb is taxes, also looking for the best possible quality education, which we feel that, if we had a one campus model, would be the best way to go. I mean, we're a long ways away from that and many discussions, but yeah, that's kind of where we're headed in our thinking. All right, are we ready to take a vote? All right, I'll start out here. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I hate to derail you last minute.
Sure.
Does it make sense to, one of the things you guys talked about was having a vote on the feasibility study. Does it make sense to have that be all one motion? So that's all one thing, or are you planning to do a second motion regardless?
Yeah, we can.
It sounds like you're going to. I just didn't know if you want to make it one or not.
I think we can do that second.
One.
Yeah. All right, we will start with you, Emily.
Yes, but I think it would be great to have the motion read back first, if you don't mind.
Sure. See if I can remember.
Motion to maintain the status quo.
With three schools.
Three elementary schools.
Yeah.
3 elementary.
Yes.
Thanks, Emily. Joe?
Yes.
Dan? Crystal. Oh, I'm sorry. Crystal. So sorry.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, thank you. Dana?
Yes.
Lindsay? It's okay.
Yes.
Yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Aye. Nay. Okay.
Somebody's got to do it.
That's right. And I'll vote in favor. So
Move it forward. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
do we have a count on that? Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
10,
1,
2
over there.
8 in favor, 1 abstain, and 1 no.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
No one abstained.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Appreciate it, folks. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next. Shall the West River Education District explore the feasibility of a one campus model to serve its residents, students, or other models that may work?
I would like to make a motion.
Actually, we have a public comment on this first. Sorry. If there is none, then we can move on to that quickly. Anybody? Paul, the floor is yours, folks.
This is on the feasibility study?
Yes.
Yep.
I think that at this point, some great discussions. I appreciate what you guys listen to us. And I think the feasibility study would provide valuable information. And, it doesn't mean it's going to be a pie in the sky thing like everybody's afraid of. It could be something simple. Maybe they look at what we have and it could be a modification of that. So I would urge that to happen because we do have to move forward on it. These are difficult decisions. And I think we need that extra information. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Oh, Peter Busard.
Hi, thank you. My name is Peter Busard. I just graduated from Leland and Gray. Right now, I stand as just a community member, Newfane resident. And I think that one thing that should be looked at along with a feasibility study is really trying to push to the public to make them willing to change. Everything that I keep hearing at these meetings are so many people that are just stuck in what we do right now. They don't want to think about any other possibility because they know what they're doing right now is acceptable. But I think really the board should look at, in some way, somehow, really pushing to the public to say, hey, can everyone just think about the possibility of change? Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Anybody else? Oh, if nobody else, yeah, sure. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Went for that.
I can't imagine what this kind of studies would cost. And I don't know if you would have multiple third parties look into this versus just one company or whoever to do the research, but I would probably suggest having more than just one company do the research. So whereas we get different views.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
the only other thing I'd comment is I am not all for doing nothing, just sitting and doing nothing, not at all. And I think we have opportunities here. We talked about the collaboration between the schools. It's huge, guys. But for both the high school and the middle school and the elementary school. So, you know, I'm saddened that we don't have after school in Townsend. I've been doing it for so many years. I feel bad for those kids. I don't know what the board can do about that, but there's things that we can do that will make what we have better. I'm not saying what we have is perfect. We have opportunities to make it better. I'm just saying, don't tear apart what we know works, but that doesn't mean we sit and don't do anything. There's plenty of opportunities. So I'm not saying that we're perfect. We don't need to do anything. We have challenges, but we have a base. So let's build on that and then get the information to move forward before we make change.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question that sort of feeds off of that, so I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question, so you can tell me if I need to wait for others.
Oh, no, it's a public comment, so you can, ask me, yeah.
My question is about the after-school program. Last year, I've been participating in it for a long time. I know Townsend has been very, very active, but all of a sudden it's changed, and I don't know why they've said it's all got to be coming down to Newbrook, when I know that Townsend, I think you guys went 5 days a week? Or more. And I'm not sure how we are going to be able to keep doing that and putting the kids on the bus or whatever. So I don't know why that happened. I don't know if you can answer that, or if I can take my question somewhere else, or is it a mute point?
Let's see if anybody out here would like to answer.
Well, we didn't get the grant, right? The grant.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It was funded by
basically
a
it.
grant, and we didn't get the grant this year.
That's right.
So Townsend didn't get a grant, or?
The SU didn't get the grant.
Well, then why are we doing it at Newbrook? Why can't it be at both places?
It's in Jamaica and
It's gonna be at Jamaica.
it's in Jamaica. It's on either end, so that I could be speaking out of turn here.
No, I think you're
My-
yeah.
People that are.
My
that
thought-
are running it, and it's going from like 3 to
5:30?
5:30.
5:30 now. Yeah, 5 days a week. So it's expanded hours now.
5 days a week?
Yes.
Okay.
So it is expanded hours. I don't know for sure, but I can only imagine that at least part of that decision of having it on either end was that it's more cost effective to run 2 programs than 3, and that generally speaking, parents work either in Brattleboro or in Manchester direction. And so that way, whichever direction a family is coming from. They have a place that is moderately convenient for their children.
So I guess
but
to keep our fingers crossed that all of those people that have been so dedicated at Townsend are gonna come down to.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And we have.
So, all right, folks, wait, time out. Yeah. So, and before we get to that, so we are off subject and I probably, yeah, I apologize. I should have, we can, yeah, sorry.
Add it to a future agenda?
Yeah, you know what? Let's definitely come back to that. We will add that to our next, probably not this agenda, but we have a meeting also on Wednesday and we could add it to our Wednesday agenda. You bet. Absolutely. Okay. Sorry. Back to the feasibility study. Any other public comment on that matter? No. All right, seeing none, we will move on to board discussion and possible action. Anybody like to kick that off?
Do we have any estimates on cost of a feasibility study and the scope of it?
Bill, would you be able to speak to that?
Yeah. My thinking was after seeing your guys's motion from August and seeing the availability that you came up with questions and thoughts about a school quality review. We need to do the same thing on a feasibility study because you guys have brought up some really good points about, is it only for one campus? Is it looking at our current holdings? Is it looking at what is available in 10 years? So my thinking was that it might be a very good idea to keep the momentum going for the board, but to create a small dedicated subcommittee of the board that can work with our director of operations and the administration as a first step to identify what is the scope of work that the board is interested in. Bring that back to the board, confirm this is the scope of work. At the same time, start interviewing possible vendors that could do a wide variety of that scope of work. Because really the cost is going to be in the scope of work. Are you talking about just a one campus model? Are you talking about a one campus model and using the existing buildings? I think the board is going to need to ask those questions so that we know what the scope of what we're going to ask a vendor to do. But we don't have to slow down from that. But if we're going to keep moving this forward, I would suggest that the board consider creating a small subcommittee of dedicated interested parties from the board, along with the director of operations and the administrators, to narrow down what is the scope of work that the board's interested in, and at the same time looking for vendors that could do that continuum of work so that within the next 30 to 45 days, the board would have an idea of cost, idea of time, an idea of outcome.
I like that, Bill. So you're talking about a subcommittee that would meet 3 or 4 times over the next month or so to hash that out?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm looking for a subcommittee that's going to meet and taking everything they've heard from the board to make sure that we are getting the scope of work that the board is interested in, reflecting that back to the board. While at the same time, going ahead and finding vendors that could do a continuum of work. We can start with one campus and what currently exists and the possibilities of the future. That will give us an idea of the types of firms we could work with, but we need to know what the scope is so that when we engage a vendor, we can get accurate costs, because it could be anywhere from $25,000 to $250,000, depending on what it is the board wants to know.
All right. And how many members would you suggest?
Well, I don't
3?
want any, I want less than 6 so you don't have a quorum.
Right.
So you can
right.
have up to 5. And you don't
Okay.
have to have all 5 tonight, but I would like at least 3. Because we'll have our director of operations. I know Bob will be very interested. Scotty will probably be very interested.
Nailed it, Bill.
You just got voted in.
And we'll make them, Zoom meetings that can be, very efficient, but really we just need to understand the scope of work so we can contact some vendors and get some costs, bring it back to the board. And then the board can say, yeah, that's something we're willing to invest in.
I think it's a great idea. All right, so would you say on this that we should explore the feasibility? So we should say yes to that, but as an aside, set up a charge for a subcommittee?
Yes, I would do 2 separate motions. One,
yeah,
so the last motion you made in August was the viability of a feasibility study. Good. It's viable. Now you're going to explore actually doing it and coming back with some costs and scope. And I think that's key, costs and scope.
So we need a motion to explore the feasibility of a one campus model to serve our resident students or other models that may work.
I think the way it's written on the agenda is fine.
Okay. I will entertain that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I did. Oh.
You can have it.
All right. Any discussion?
Be sure we can't just do this right now. We really need another committee and another month and another. We really need that.
So what is the scope of the work that you want done? Does it include looking at land? Does it include looking at sewage? Does it include looking at electricity? Does it include looking at our current buildings? Does it include looking at buildings we don't own? Does it include only the one campus model?
To be fair, I would expect somebody who's the professional to tell us what things we needed to look at. And that we would say, we would like to do a one campus with these parameters being, here's our legal requirements. And that we would then have somebody who's the actual professional tell us, this is our suggestion of the things you should look at with more specifics.
Under the C, under new business, it says other models.
Yeah.
So what scope of work is that?
That would be, well, because I'm not a civil engineer, so I don't know. But somebody who is would actually be able to make that suggestion.
I think what we're trying to do is, instead of giving the vendor a sledgehammer, giving them a scalpel. It's really what we're trying to narrow it down and get the best feedback from them. You're right.
I'm not opposed to having it.
Yeah.
I just personally don't see, maybe somebody needs to give me a better example, but I don't see what specifics we would give other than what we already have discussed as a group that we already know right now.
I don't know. Is create a committee. Trust me. I am happy if the board is totally comfortable with me just working with the officers on a consulting basis of, hey, am I getting this right? I'm talking to these 3 vendors. Am I getting the scope correct? They came back with these follow-up questions. Can I just go to the officers? Can they say, yeah, you're on it. Okay. So it's going to take 6 months. It's going to do this and it's going to cost this. I'm okay with that. I would just trust me. I don't want any more committee meetings.
Thanks, Bill. Go ahead, Emily.
Thanks. So I think this part of it is really important. I've been through so many feasibility studies over the years. This part is really important, that we are really clear on what we're trying to do before we employ somebody. It'll save us money in the long run if we take the time right up front here. And it doesn't need to take a long time, but I do think we need to put the time into this. And it doesn't, I'm fine with it being a committee or being officers. I don't care which it is. I just think we need to define this a little bit more before we employ someone. And it feels like where we keep talking about one campus model. I'm going to vote to support this motion because it says or other models. I don't think I have no problem with one campus model. I'm just saying that I don't want to limit it to that. And if we're going to have a motion that I am supporting that says or other models, we really do need to define this more so we can save ourselves money in the long run. One campus or whatever. But I just feel like we need to explore this a little bit better. Give better direction to whoever we employ.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, I mean, I would fully support the officers doing that. I think we could work with Bill and Bob, sounds like, and our director of operations. I don't think there's any issue with that. So Bill, we could probably do that fairly quickly. Avoid setting up a subcommittee.
No, I mean, I think Lindsay is right that we don't want to lose the momentum, and Emily is right that we want to define what we're going to ask. And I think that both can be accomplished in a short time frame.
Yep. Happy medium. All right. I like it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll do this motion first, and then do we even need a vote to have the officers work on that?
You don't need to have a vote. You just need to, I just want the board to know that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Any other discussion on this motion? Seeing none, take it to a vote. Emily.
Yes.
Crystal.
Aye.
Joe.
Yes.
Dana. Lindsay.
Yes.
Leanne. Sarah.
Aye.
Mike. Ken.
Yes.
What?
So
And
that in
yes,
a minute.
I'll make it unanimous.
Put that in the minutes.
Unanimous vote. There we go. Yeah, Bill, and as we just were discussing, we will set up some time, the officers, to meet to discuss the scope so that we can reach out to some vendors with a more clear and defined what we do, what we want to do. All right.
Can I send you some ideas?
Of course. Absolutely.
So I was gonna volunteer for the committee, but.
Hey, Dana,
Absolutely.
excellent point. Anybody who has their thoughts about what this should be, send them to the officers.
Yep. Great point. Yes. Thank you. All right. Part D here. Sorry.
Before we go on,
We already voted, Ken. So you voted yes.
I know, but before we go on, this committee made up of the officers,
Mhm.
okay, who all three are from Townsend. Okay.
Yeah.
Just pointing that out.
It's a conspiracy.
It could sound like one, but anyway, so
But I'm at large. I represent all five.
he's at large.
Actually, all represent all.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
If
no.
that's not clear by now. Yes.
In your deliberations, remember, we're all in this together. Okay.
Thank you,
ahead.
Ken. Thank you. Appreciate it. We will do that. All right. Shall the West River Education District explore a third-party school quality review?
I'll make this one quicker.
Oh, sorry, Bill. We got to do a little public comment first. See if any folks out here wanted to jump in. And I am,
I might just say, just.
Please, go ahead.
Townsend,
Sure.
for financial reasons, and if, I mean, I think we're all under this is not the most ideal situation that spending, you know, how, if we're looking at long-term planning or whatever, the status quo isn't what we all want, but maybe spending more money on this at this time might not make the most sense. That in the future would be great, but maybe not currently is my own.
Thank you. Tony, go ahead.
Can we open it up to not just the officers, but to the entire community to be on this board, please?
Tony, apologize. We already took the vote on that. But as with Dana, we are more than welcoming suggestions for that scope. So please go ahead and send anything in email. It'd be great. Thank you. Yeah. Or we can discuss. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joyce.
I think it would be good to be able to let schools know so that staffs could also maybe give some input.
I think that's a great idea.
All of our principals know, and then maybe we can just discuss it at a staff meeting.
Yeah, great idea. On there. Yep, fantastic. Juliet.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So I am a Newfane resident and parent of a couple of very young kids. And just on the topic of whether or not we want to do a study and have an outside consultant look at possible improvements in the school district, I personally feel really strongly in favor of that. As I look forward to what my kids' high school options are going to be, I have some concerns that we've talked about in the past about college readiness and overall academic achievement at LNG. And I would love to see real effort made on this to, you know, if it's just a branding issue, then we can work on that. But if there is room for improvement that could improve our district as a whole and academic outcomes for all the kids in the public school, I think that would be really great. And, you know, I mean, our plan up to this point has been to try to lottery into BUHS, but if we could do LNG, that would be really great for me. I would love to see a study done on that.
Thanks, Juliet. All right. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Go ahead, Bill.
So I was just going to say, based on the board's comments, that the school quality review, when I've been talking with possible vendors, it appears, and I just want to check my thinking here, is that instruction and student outcomes is the priority at this time. And that can be just like we need to have it defined for the feasibility study. A school quality review needs to have, what are you looking for? Are you looking for culture? Are you looking for climate? Are you looking for instruction? Are you looking only at secondary? Are you looking only at elementary? So I don't have a problem going and finding those vendors, bringing back to the board these 9 or 8 things plus other. Almost all of them are tying into instruction and student outcome. And so I guess I just want to say to the board, am I right? Is that where I should be starting from as I go to look for vendors, or am I missing something there?
My thoughts are, yes, instruction and student outcome would be the major priority for it. I would say the concerns I've heard most have been about secondary instruction. However, they're all coming from our elementary schools. And so maybe we should do it for everybody so that we can look at our whole system K through 12 and see what we are doing that's working and what we're doing that could use improvement.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can help guide us additionally in our future planning.
And I think that would be the goal, would be to straight through K through 12, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have a comment on, I'm sorry, go ahead, Liz.
I just wonder if you might also want to look at issues around conditions of employment for teachers, staff morale, student perceptions, alumni perceptions.
Yeah. Alumni. Like that. So, Bill, just a question. So understand that these folks focus on certain things like instruction and outcome, but I would imagine they would at least have some commentary on culture and climate, wouldn't be so narrowly focused.
Different groups will approach it in different ways. I talked to one group the other day and they said, are you just trying to have a study to make your current environment more efficient? Or are you trying to study how you can improve and be flexible about your structure? So they will tailor their study. There are some core things like instruction and student outcomes. And then what Les mentioned is really, student, staff, and alumni perception, which kind of gets to culture. Again, I will engage with some possible vendors. I will talk with them the best of my ability and bring back to the board some scope of work and costs and time so that the board can have some robust discussions, hopefully in October, to make these investments and moving forward.
Thanks, Bill. Does that make sense, everybody? Instruction and outcome being the main priorities, and then
culture and stuff, yeah.
obviously having some discussion on
I have a
climate.
question for Bill.
Sure.
Bill, with what you know now, do you think there's one firm who can tackle the feasibility study for the different models and the quality and kind of wrap it all up together? Or is that too much of an ask?
I think the feasibility is really a physical infrastructure. I mean, that is like architecture, that is civil engineering.
Yeah.
And I think the school quality review is educational consultants, people that are thinking
Like
about
DMG
education.
group and stuff. Yeah.
One of the groups, DMG. There you go. I mean, I could be wrong, Mike. Maybe it'll merge, but I think there's different levels of expertise attacking it in different ways.
Thanks, Bill. All right. Anybody else?
One other little tidbit as part of that, which I think is encompassed in that anyway. I know there has been so much conversation about scheduling in the high school and how that affects classes and whether block scheduling is the best way to do things or not. And I know that it's gone back and forth and the staff has talked about it and there's been all sorts of things. Anyway, they may have something to say about it.
Block scheduling. Yeah. All right.
Versus the old way.
Yeah.
8 periods or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 periods.
Yeah.
It was. Right.
All right. Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion.
Do we have to?
I will move that the West River Education District explores a third-party school quality review.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Leanne. Any discussion?
All that stuff we just said.
Right.
And more. Perfect.
All right. Anybody else have some discussion on that? No? All right. We will take it to a vote. Emily,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Yes.
Dana,
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yes.
And yes for me. Passes unanimously. All right. Thanks, folks. So we do have an E. I wrote it down. That's all right. And it is in regards to the early and after school, correct? Okay.
So, That's on the agenda for Wednesday, and we can tie that together with the questions about after school because they both fit. And I will ask our Director of Operations, Transportation, to see if he can be available for any follow-up clarifying questions on Wednesday to match that. The short answer for the after school is when we didn't get the grant, we got the reasons why they didn't get the grant. And our wonderful director of after school, who is working beyond her contract just to help us get up and running, looked at how to satisfy those and prepare the West River Education District to match the ability to get the funding. One of the big ones is going to 530. Outdoor space is also a big one. So we could talk more about that. I've invited her to come on Wednesday. I don't know if she'll be available or not, but those activities begin in October. So if it's going to be the board's wish to maybe direct us to do something different, because we are not under the auspices of 21C, we do have a little bit more flexibility, but we could discuss that more on Wednesday.
Leanne.
This is just a quick question for Bill. Have the agendas been sent out to the board members for Wednesday? I'm just making sure I'm not missing something because I hadn't seen anything yet.
And neither have I.
I intentionally didn't send it, so I didn't confuse you guys for tonight's meeting, but it is on a schedule send for 7:53 tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
That's very
I
specific.
don't have my 7:54, let me tell you. No, I'm just kidding.
That's not 48 hours before the meeting.
No, it's been posted. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the
Yeah.
board pack.
Yeah, the whole packet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
We're the
available.
last to know.
Yeah.
As it should be, Dana.
That's right. All right. Unless there's anything else, I will entertain that last motion.
Adjourn.
Lindsay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much, folks.